there, everyone, and welcome to episode 88. That's 88. 88. That's nearly 100 episodes of Halfway Through the Heat. And I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Tom. Tom, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
All right, that's good to hear. We are looking at Living Dangerously 2000 today, and this is a pay-per-view. It's an ECW pay-per-view from 2000. Obviously, it's in the name, but also it's a pay-per-view that we were at live. So this is actually my first time watching the pay-per-view, in the sense that I've never seen any of the weird promos that were in there, and we did see more matches than were in this pay-per-view, but because we were there. Unfortunately, though, you cannot see us. We were nowhere to be found because the hard camera was kind of to the side of where we were. So the hard camera was from one angle, and we were to the right of the camera. So you can just imagine, if you're watching this pay-per-view, that we are totally to the right.
Yes, you'll just have to imagine our presence, magnetic presence, as you watch the show, which is available, of course, on the WWE Network. But yeah, we went. I don't remember who we went with. I know it wasn't just the two of us. We went with some friends.
I think your brother was there.
I think my brother might have been there, and maybe Jay, who later went on to become an indie wrestler, a friend of ours named Jay Adelberg. But regardless, this was a show we remembered very fondly, and I was curious to see how it stacks up all these years later while watching it on TV. But before we get into it, let's set the stage a little bit. ECW Living Dangerously. The date is March 12th, 2000. We are at the O'Neill Center at Western Connecticut State University with a capacity of 4,500. The number one song in America is Amazed by Lone Star.
I don't even know what that is.
I have no idea what that is.
That's not one of those I don't even know who the Kardashians is kind of thing. I honestly don't know who that is. I have no clue. I couldn't tell you who that was. And generally when I don't know celebrities today, it's because I live in a different country. But I was in the US at that point, and
yes. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really listen to the radio, but generally, when the song is a number one song, you know it. Maybe if maybe if someone played it, I would recognize it. I'd be like, oh, that garbage. But,
that's possible. I'm guessing this was the one hit for Lone Star, but that was the number one song. The number one movie was The Whole Nine Yards, starring Bruce Willis and Matthew Perry. On March 10th, which was 2 days before, the NASDAQ index reached an all-time high of 5,048, which would be the peak before the burst of the dot-com bubble. By the way, the NASDAQ is currently at 6,205. So that's the setting. It's the end of the Bill Clinton years. The country is still riding high. The economy has not burst. The Twin Towers are still standing. Lone Star riding high in the charts. And we are at the O'Neill Center. ECW has just about exactly 1 year left before declaring bankruptcy.
Oh, the poor ECW.
At the time, at least nobody outside the company was thinking about that, because they had recently gotten national TV for the first time on TNN, the national network. The Nashville network.
Does the Nashville network still exist? Didn't it become Spike?
It became Spike. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was originally pitched as TV for guys, but now it's just TV, I guess.
That's just TV for people who like Spike, I guess.
People who watch TV. So anyway, that's where we are, and we're at the O'Neill Center. It's a chilly day, and there's a dark match that is not on the network. I have no memory of this dark match, but Joe has informed me that it was Mikey Whipwreck versus one of the Pitbulls.
Pitbull number one.
Can't evaluate the match. It's not on the show. It was a dark match. I don't remember it.
It's dark from your memory as well.
It's dark from my memory. I do remember seeing Mikey Whipwreck several times. He was always good. The show that's on the WWE Network starts with a taped promo of the Sinister Minister, speaking of Mikey Whipwreck, cutting a promo about
The
something.
seven deadly sins of ECW.
Yes, that's right. And then we go right to the O'Neill Center. The crowd is huge. If it wasn't sold out, it was close. And it's very loud. And, it's funny. ECW is often thought of as like the precursor of the Indies, and a lot of the Indies wanted to be ECW at one point. But watching this again really reminds me, ECW was not like an indie. It was too big.
Yeah, well, like, think of it this way. This is 2000, so, like, we're smack dab in the middle of Vince Russo WCW. And the Vince Russo WCW pay-per-views were, like, had attendance of, like, 6,000, 7,000 maybe. And that's tiny for a pay-per-view, but, like, this pay-per-view apparently had an attendance of about it says 5,000, which would be 500 people over the limit of the O'Neill Center. But like, that's it's comparable.
You know how they like to inflate things, but yeah, it was close to 5,000 anyway. Even it was 4,500. So yeah, ECW was a big deal, and it's hard to. I don't know. I think in the current landscape, when like if an indie show gets 500 people, it's crazy. It's off the chain. Like it's hard to remember that ECW was routinely drawing thousands of people to its shows, and like crazy fans. Like you go to indie shows now, and most of them are people are pretty quiet for the most part. At ECW, they were never quiet. The fans were nuts. This has been, I think, maybe a slightly romanticized aspect of ECW. There was bad things about those crowds too, but watching this, it reminded me of how much fun it was to be in that crowd that was just like going nuts for the whole show.
Yeah, the crowd is nuts for the whole show, and it was good. And they do a really good job of getting the crowd kind of worked up. So like, they had the pay-per-view starts with the Sinister Minister, which we didn't know actually happened because it's a pre-taped thing that we didn't see. But this I do remember was Joey Styles and the quintessential stud muffin Joel Gertner come to the ring, and Joel Gertner does his thing, and by his thing I mean he says some kind of poetry of some kind.
If you'd never seen Joel Gertner, his thing was kind of like, and this might be an obscure reference too, like Dolomite or Blowfly. Like he would come out and do like a rhyme about how much sex he had.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's all right. But this is the time when once he's done, Cyrus the Virus comes out. And he representing the network. So like in this point in ECW, they had that thing where like TNN was banning them from doing certain things on the show, like that they would previously do on the show. So like they made it into an angle where like on the show they couldn't do a lot of things that they would normally do in ECW, and but because it's the pay-per-view, they were like, "You have no power here, Cyrus. This is a pay-per-view." And, Cyrus and Joel Gertner get in an argument. And
this by the way, is helps provide the context as to why ECW had a very uneasy relationship with TNN, and it was eventually bounced off TNN for WWE. I know this was the era of the work shoot, but at the same time, like, they were bad-mouthing their own network all the time on the network.
Constantly. It was an angle that the network, that, like, made everybody who watched ECW hate TNN.
It was an interesting choice. And Cyrus the Virus, by the way, is Don Callis, who you may know from English language commentary on New Japan shows these days. But yeah, so he comes out, he gets in an argument with Joel Gertner because Joel Gertner is saying too many sex things, and they go back and forth. They square up to each other like they're going to fight, and Cyrus says, I don't actually want to fight. I work for the network. I'm a huge pussy, whatever. And then he cheap shots Gertner and starts beating on him.
He cheap shots
And
Gertner with a super kick.
that's right, he does. Because Don Callis was a wrestler who trained in Canada, um, not in, I think in Winnipeg actually, not in famed Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Um, but Joey Styles pulls him off, and the crowd is Don Callis got like real heat. Like the crowd really didn't like him, which was his job, of course.
Yeah, the crowd hated Cyrus, and which is like, I mean, good for the show, but like bad because it really made people hate TNN.
Right. It's like they succeeded too well.
They, yeah, they did their job too well here. Um, it was like it really was an issue with TNN. Like they really hated it.
Yes, and ECW just kind of kept going with it, which is kind of a classic Paul Heyman move. But anyway, that somehow leads to our first match, which is begins when Steve Corino, who at the time was doing his old school hero gimmick, where he was like he hated contemporary wrestling and wanted to bring back the wrestling of the 70s. He comes out with Jack Victory, crowd not happy, and then he's doing an angle with the Sandman's wife, who was at ringside.
And like when we watched this, we saw this live, and I thought like I had totally forgotten about that it was this show.
Yes.
But when it started happening, I was like, oh, there's gonna be something nasty happening here, and I was not disappointed.
He calls the Sandman's wife the biggest douchebag of them all, which is funny.
Well, he called the crowd drunk, sexual, deviant douchebags, and so you've been personally insulted by Steve Corino, Tom.
Yeah, I deserve it too. Then he goes out. Then
Give
he
us hell,
walks up.
Corino.
Yeah, give us hell, Corino. He walks up to the Sandman's wife and kid, who's a young kid, tells the kid the Sandman is not his dad, calls Sandman's wife a whore. There's an attempted sexual assault, which finally brings the Sandman out from the back. Rhino gores the Sandman's wife through a table.
Now, I remember seeing this live, and it looks nasty on the on the video, but like seeing it live, it looked like she was dead. She like folded in half.
Yeah, she sold it really, really well.
Because like no matter what, she's like a 100-pound woman being gored by Rhino into a table.
Yes.
So like she just like folded in half basically. That was it. It was just folded in half and didn't move. That was it.
The other thing about it too is people now. It's funny because you often think of like our standards of like profane language or sexuality or things in movies and TV. You think of it like us getting much more and more permissive and sort of unshockable as time goes on. So
basically none of this would have been able to fly today. Like
this would not, and not even on an indie show. Like people, there's this debate that keeps going on about intergender wrestling, and there are people who are super super sensitive about it. And there were even people trying to claim that the YouTube issue, which I think we've talked about, where YouTube is not monetizing wrestling videos anymore, that the reason was intergender wrestling, which there's no evidence for that. But like, also intergender wrestling now, you watch it, it's a wrestling match between a man and a woman. Like it's just a it's a wrestling match. Whatever there's nothing like it's not like a dude beating on a woman. This is a dude beating on a woman.
This not only is this is not just a dude beating on a woman, it's like a dude and two giant men come out and single out a specific woman to not only to insult, but to insult and manhandle and then try to hold down and rape. Right. It's like like if you thought like just like a man beating on a woman was over the top, like there was like nearly forced sexual assault in this story. This would like 10% of this wouldn't have gone over today. It's just like over the limits for what people can take. So like Um, yeah,
It's so far beyond what you could do today. It's genuinely shocking. And it's funny to think this is 17 years old.
yeah. And I remember seeing this live, but like the it's like this the kind of sensibilities of people today are totally different from when like the crowd is just like, I mean, obviously the crowd is not happy with this, like,
No, right. Yeah, they're not
but
cheering for it really, but
like nobody afterwards was like, I can't believe they did that.
right. Yeah, that's the thing. Like this was, I mean, it was farther than WCW and WWF would go at the time, obviously, but it wasn't totally foreign to what WCW and WWF were doing. Like, I mean, the definitely the attempted sexual assault stuff, but like women were being put through tables all the time. The Dudley Boys put like old ladies through tables.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but it's pretty intense by today's standard. It would, and like if you did this even in an indie show today, people would absolutely lose their shit.
You would be done. Your whole indie thing would be gone.
You'd be finished. Yeah, you'd be done. You would be so hashtag problematic.
Oh my God, yeah. But this is like it's really weird how this happened, because like this is a match between Steve Corino and Dusty Rhodes, but like
Yeah, yeah. There's no sign of Dusty Rhodes at this point.
this is like 20 minutes of them just like beating up the Sandman and his wife, and like um brutalizing them. And then like Steve Carino, like you'd figure like, okay, that'd be it, next thing happens. But actually Steve Carino just hangs back, and then he starts calling out Dusty Rhodes, like saying like he's just like, let's change topics from that horrifying nightmare you just saw to a new thing. And he's like calling out Dusty Rhodes. He calls himself the new American Dream, which is hilarious. Um he's he was they Dusty Rhodes comes out for this match, and like Steve Corino is announced that as 213 and 3/4 pounds, which I liked. The ref
Yes.
is the ref is AC Loke. Important. You should remember that.
Also, I before we there's this the whole like pre Dusty Rhodes thing. It goes on for 20 minutes. This is supposed to be a match between Steve Corino and Dusty Rhodes. There's no sign of Dusty Rhodes for 20 minutes.
And then the match happens. Uh, um, sort of.
Sort of.
And I remember this live because I remember thinking like, we didn't see all of this match. We saw like a small portion of this match, because the entire match is like basically just them fighting each other through the audience.
It's a Texas bull rope match, by the way. So
Yeah,
they've got the big knotted rope with the bell on it, and they're dressed in street clothes and they're beating the shit out of each other.
yeah. This is you have to remember. I specifically mentioned that the ref was AC Loke because he gets involved in the match because he has some kind of vendetta against Steve Corino for attacking him at a previous show. And there's a point where the referee helps Dusty Rhodes like tape a bull rope, the not a bull rope, the cowbell to Steve Carino's head. The ref is like helping him so he can smash him. It's great.
There's yeah, one of the things about ECW too is that like there's very little in the way of like rules, or like lots of things don't make sense.
Yeah, because like there was no point in this match. I mean, I guess like because it's a bull rope match, like there's no disqualifications or whatever. Uh, but basically this match is like, it was just like a bloody slugfest through the crowd, and then like some weird stuff with the cowbell where both of them get real bloody, and the ref helps, and that's it. Yeah, I mean,
It's not great.
yeah, like it was. I'm not gonna say it was good live, but it was exciting.
Yeah, like
But
because you didn't know what was going to happen live.
watching it on the the replay of it is it's mostly just kind of boring, um because you can't see anything that's happening. It's all
Right.
through the crowd. So yeah, I mean, Dusty Rhodes was there though. We totally
Yeah,
got
we did see.
We got to see Dusty Rhodes live.
We got to see the American Dream bleed a lot. There's a lot of blood in this match. And it's funny because ECW did a lot of stuff that was sort of groundbreaking. Their whole image was like, there's nobody like us. But this match is essentially anything you could have seen in the territories in the 70s. The actual match part, not everything around it. And then the ref interference is actually different. But like, two dudes in street clothes beating the shit out of each other with a cowbell and a rope is like very traditional. And that, I think, honestly, to me, is one of the secrets of ECW's success, is that on top of the flashy stuff they did differently, a lot of what they did was just very traditional wrestling.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who tried to imitate what ECW didn't understand that. They didn't understand that it wasn't like barbed wire and chairs all the time, or it wasn't like just kind of lewd conduct or whatever. Because the main thing that I know for me at least, the main reason I liked watching ECW was it was totally edgy and all, but it was guaranteed to have amazing wrestling matches happening. And still probably out of all the amazing wrestling matches I've seen live, a good chunk of them are still probably from ECW.
Yes, agreed. And they did that so well.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of places after ECW closed that popped up or I mean even during, because you had XPW, but XPW didn't understand that. They just understood that we can be kind of raunchy. Let's make our raunchy wrestling promotion. And then you had CZW, which was just we can use barbed wire and chairs. Let's just do that all the time. That kind of thing. It was they didn't get what made ECW. They just saw the part that they liked and thought that's it. That's why everyone likes it. And it was not, because XPW did not turn into a major promotion.
No, it did not. And as we'll talk about at some point, eventually some of those people went to jail. Not for wrestling.
They should have went to jail for wrestling, though.
They should have gone to jail for wrestling. Anyway, Dusty wins. It's nothing amazing. So the second match, I had completely forgotten this faction in ECW, but the former sign guy Dudley, who the days of the Dudley Boys, he would come out and he didn't speak; he would just hold up signs.
Yes.
And I always thought, well, obviously because he's not good on the mic, he's actually pretty good on the mic. I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah. So this is the new Dangerous Alliance with Lou E. Dangerously. And I remember at the time thinking this is a hilarious gimmick, because he's basically a parody of Paul E. Dangerously, but
he's doing a Paul E. Dangerously tribute gimmick. He looks a lot like Paul Heyman,
but Paul Heyman is on the show as the same gimmick still. So it's he's doing a parody of a gimmick that's still on the show. It's great. And the new Dangerous Alliance is C.W. Anderson, who I like, and Beautiful Billy Wiles, who I'd totally forgotten about.
Yeah, I have no opinion. Even after watching this, I have no opinion on Billy Wiles.
I'd completely forgotten about him. I when he came out, I was like, who is that? I don't even remember this guy. That was the only time during the show I didn't recognize a wrestler. And I don't know what it is, but Beautiful Billy Wiles, I just did not remember. But they are wrestling Danny Doring and Roadkill with Elektra. And I will start by saying that I remember liking C.W. Anderson and Danny Doring at this time. And after watching this, I remembered why I liked Danny Doring and Roadkill, because they really are a good tag team. And I was expecting to go into this being after the end of it, thinking why did I like Danny Doring and Roadkill? What was wrong with me? And then I watched the match and I was like, oh no, I remember why I liked them, because they're really good. Yeah, that
my reaction upon watching them was not quite the same. I Um, I was much more impressed by Roadkill than I had remembered. I was like, Roadkill is really good. I don't know why. I don't know what he did after ECW, but he looked great. He was a big dude whose gimmick was that he was Amish, but he was so agile. Like he could, and like not just moving around the ring. Like he could like jump up on the ropes and do stuff off the ropes. He was a fantastic. Danny Doring, I never really warmed up to. He's good, but I hated his gimmick, which is that he was like a porn star kind of guy.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. Like, their gimmick is dumb, and like all of the, like all of his ridiculous. He had like a million move names, and they're all ridiculous. So that part of the match was dumb, but like as a team, they were really good. And you're right, Roadkill was like million times better than I remember. And I remember liking him at the time. I remember thinking like they're a good team, and then like I just forgot about it. But man, watching this again, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember why I like these guys because they were a good wrestling team.
I have to say the commentary is really dated in parts of this match. Like when Elektra comes out and gets in the ring. So Elektra was sort of. I mean, we'll talk about more about Elektra, but when Elektra comes out and gets in the ring, like Cyrus starts screaming upskirt cam," like
Oh yeah, oh
it's,
yeah.
it's very dated. Um, and the match is decent. It's not a bad match or anything. Roadkill is pretty impressive. Doring and Roadkill work together well as a team. Um, C.W. Anderson and Billy Wiles work pretty well together as a team in a very old school way, almost like a revival. I mean, they're not as good as the revival, but like almost that vein, like consciously imitating the Four Horsemen and those dudes. But then betrayal
Betrayal. Uh, Elektra, who is angry about something or other. Um,
turns on
turn.
Danny Doring and Roadkill and helps the Dangerous Alliance win the match. And Joey Styles calls her a rat, and Cyrus tells him to stop speaking in kayfabe. That was another thing ECW did on commentary I'd forgotten about. That watching it now annoys me. They were constantly using insider lingo. I mean, their fans were sort of insidery, but like it sticks out now as just this sort of, I don't know. It just seems a lot cheesier now than it did at the time, where a lot of the motivation for it was kayfabe was finally completely dead. No one was really even acknowledging it anymore, and so they felt like, hey, we can um, like say what we want now. We can really like have fun with the fans and stuff. But it comes across as cheesy now to hear like people say stuff like heel and ring rat and kayfabe even.
Yeah,
Just my 2 cents.
yeah. I mean, that's a lot of the commentary is pretty dated, and
Uh,
I mean, this match ends with Elektra trips Roadkill, giving Louis Dangerously a chance to hit Danny Doring with a cell phone, and then there's a spinebuster by C.W. Anderson for the win. Um, I like C.W. Anderson. I
yeah, I liked him too. I thought he was underrated. Partly because his gimmick was so dumb.
his gimmick was that he was Arn Anderson.
Yeah, yeah, seriously.
His
Just
I
as
mean,
Louis Dangerously's gimmick was that he was Paul E. Dangerously.
yeah, his finisher was a spinebuster. He looked like Arn Anderson. I mean,
Yep.
let's be honest. He's like a could be Arn Anderson's kid.
Yeah, seriously. Um. So after that, okay, this is another thing. Like, one thing about ECW that was confusing in this era is like every other person came to the ring with like a random collection of goofballs.
Yeah, there was like a lot of people like that. But like before this happened, there was a promo, and the Lance Storm and Just Incredible cut a promo with Dawn Marie. Jason is hanging out. So like the first you've got Lance Storm and Just Incredible, and they have like two people who are just hang out with them, Dawn Marie
Yes.
and Jason.
Yep.
Um, and they cut a promo, but like I, it's been so long, and we already mentioned it on the show once that like I can't believe that Lance Storm got over as his catchphrase, "I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada." And like it's I don't know how that works, but I still have the T-shirt that just says Lance Storm on the front. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada on the back. Um,
To this day, I love that catchphrase.
it's so good. I don't even know why. It's I when he said it, I was like, I still love that. It's so great.
Whenever I'm reading, like, I'm a hockey fan. Whenever I hear about whenever the city of Calgary is mentioned in any capacity, in my mind, I just automatically hear a pause and then Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time reading Calgary, Alberta, Canada out loud without adding a
Yeah.
pause after Calgary.
Yeah. But after that promo, we get to the ring and Simon Diamond, Kid Cash, and just like a collection of guys like
Judge Jeff Jones and
Mitch,
Mitch.
and then some guy in a vest. And part of it too is the commentary team never even says who any of these guys are.
And some other dudes who I don't even remember.
I don't. Yeah, they're not even named. So like, I couldn't even look them up online. But they all come out, and there's some jabber-jawing and back and forth, and then Judge Jeff Jones comes out with Mike Awesome, because Judge Jeff Jones was his manager, and that's another like weird ECW thing. The idea being, all right, so Mike Awesome doesn't really talk well. We should get him a manager. Great idea. What's his manager's gimmick going to be? How about he's a judge? Like, just have him be an obnoxious loudmouth. Why does he need another job? No, he's a judge. He comes out in a robe and with like a gavel and the whole thing. I never understood Jeff Jones at the time, and I understand it less now.
Yeah, now out of context, it makes no sense. Even then, it made no sense though. I will say that I like that ECW has a lot of like bizarre managers though. That's definitely a Paul Heyman thing because he himself was a manager.
Yes. Yeah, and I when I was watching this again, I talked on Twitter about how like I couldn't get over the fact that there were so many extraneous random goofballs in ECW shows, and East Coast Joe, who's a friend of the podcast and the website, he messaged me to say that was one of the things he loved about ECW in those days. So to each their own.
I mean, I watching this, I think like it's funny that like Mitch is there. I mean, he sort of had a part in the match. He was kind of the best part actually.
Mitch looks like a guy who's 18 and like going to prom. He's wearing like a white tuxedo with like a purple tie. He looks like he's 18 years old, and he does nothing. He just kind of like hangs around in the background, along with some guy in a vest who was never named. I don't know who it was.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember who that is.
I don't either.
Just guy in a vest, part of the sideshow, whatever those guys were, with Judge Jeff Jones and the jury. I guess I don't know what they are.
The whole purpose of all of this is to have Mike Awesome come out and basically say nobody is man enough to challenge him, and then Kid Cash, whose gimmick is that he was Kid Rock.
Okay, this is the dumbest gimmick, and I hated it then, and I hate it now. And like it's not even. It was like, one of the main factors why I never liked Kid Cash as much as I should have, because he's a good wrestler, but I can't look at him and not think like I just want to throw him on the ground and kick him till he's dead. He's just his gimmick is that he's Kid Rock.
This is one of the funniest things in wrestling. When they get a guy, and it's always musicians, when they're like their gimmick is essentially them saying, "Hey, you know that musician you like? Well, what if he wrestled?" The WWE and NXT is already they just introduced Velveteen Dream, whose gimmick is that he's Prince. That's it. His Twitter picture is literally the cover of Purple Rain with him photoshopped into it.
Awesome.
Like, I love that it's the shittiest idea. Like, I love they're still doing this, and Kid Cash was ECW's version of that. I actually read an interview with Kid Cash a couple days ago in Power Slam Collecting Interviews, which is a really good book if you're interested. And he talked, and like, it wasn't even, he didn't even say like, oh, the idea was that I would be like Kid Rock. He was like, they showed me a bunch of Kid Rock videos, and they were like, you're Kid Rock. Like, he didn't pick that gimmick. That was Paul Heyman. And the idea was, like, literally, like, you are Kid Rock, but Kid Rock is a wrestler.
Yeah, that's
I hated the gimmick. You're absolutely right. I hated it. I hate it now. He's a really good wrestler. This match is basically to get him over as a babyface because he gets the shit kicked out of him by Mike Awesome, but he does it like in a really like stick to like it's not a squash match. Like he's really in there fighting and trying, but Mike Awesome is so big, um, it's basically impossible to do anything against Mike Awesome.
yeah. Mike Awesome with his awesome mullet,
Yes.
is in this match. It's basically just a squash though. There is an impressive dive from the ring by Kid Cash over the guardrail onto Mike Awesome. That was a pretty cool spot, and Kid Cash gets kind of like a nice hurricane run at one point where it's like it looks really cool, but it's just like he's tiny and Mike Awesome is just too big. Just uh, like half the time of this match is just Mike Awesome setting up a table.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
he's a
the
giant guy.
but the finish
Um,
is really cool because like it looks brutal. It's just like a awesome bomb through the table from the top rope, which is impressive.
it looks nuts.
It looks it looks pretty badass, and you know this match is like how long is it? It can't be more than 5 minutes.
No, yeah, it's a short match. But the crowd is pretty like they get on Kid Cash's side, and it sort of achieved what it was set out to do, which is get him over and reaffirm that Mike Awesome is a huge badass. Um, from there we go to uh,
We don't really go to anything because
no, that's
like
true. Yeah,
Kid Cash is like just beat up in the ring and Mike Awesome leaves and Jazz comes out to help Kid Cash, and she's out there helping Kid Cash when Jado and Ghetto hit the ring and just start beating those guys up. So Jado and Ghetto beat up Jazz and Kid Cash, and suddenly they're gone. But suddenly Nova and Chris Chetty are coming to the ring, and we've got a match. So we've got Nova and Chris Chetty versus Jado and Ghetto.
this happened a lot in ECW where like the matches would just sort of happen. They would just develop organically. Like what? Like two guys who are unrelated to. There'd be two guys in the ring, and then other guys would come out, and they would just start fighting, and then eventually the two guys who had started would just disappear, and the match would
it's
become the two guys who had done run-ins,
it's a totally different match. Yeah.
which is a
Um.
pretty neat way to do it. And Ghetto, is it Ghetto? Yeah, Ghetto is the guy who he's the booker at New Japan.
Yes. So Jado and Ghetto here are visiting from Japan, and they're visiting from FMW, which had a like a kind of exchange program with ECW. So like a bunch of people from ECW went over to FMW, and FMW people came to ECW, and this is like um, hot into the team no respect thing, where like they were like a big faction in FMW at this point, and it's full. I mean, Team No Respect was like one of the biggest things in FMW, but like it's full of people like mostly you don't know. I'd guess like unless you like Mr. Ganosuke is like Wing Kanamura is probably someone you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But like also it includes Super Leather, who
Super Leather, yeah, Super Leather.
Super Leather, who is Leatherface, and his gimmick is that he's Leatherface. But also, I found that the person who was Super Leather was Corporal Kirshner.
Really? Oh yeah, yeah. No, I knew that. Yeah, yeah. And just to refresh your memory, if you're listening and don't remember, Leatherface was he started out in the Memphis territory, and his gimmick is that he was Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like that's to the point where they called him Leatherface. He dressed like Leatherface and brought a chainsaw to the ring.
Yeah, and that's basically what he's doing in FMW too. Um,
Except he got over like big in FMW, whereas he was sort of a sideshow attraction at Memphis. He became kind of a star in Japan to the point that there was a rival Leatherface, and they had a Leatherface versus Leatherface match.
yeah, that's bizarre.
I love it. Um, but yeah, so and today Geto is the man behind all those 6 and 8 man tag teams that you love so much in New Japan. But this match turns into Jado and Geto versus Nova and Chris Chetti. Chris Chetti, who is Taz's cousin.
I totally forgot that.
Nova, who eventually made his way to the WWE and became head of developmental for a while.
And also became one of the most hated people in WWE.
One of the most hated people in WWE, and I also, in the Power Slam book, there's an interview with him, and it's really interesting. He's now a financial planner, by the way. It's an interesting interview. That's sort of neither here nor there. He was working a superhero gimmick at this point, which was kind of a dumb idea. That it's always, and unless you're in Mexico, it's usually a weird thing to try to be a superhero. They weren't a bad team, honestly, Nova and Chris Chetti.
Yeah, no, they were a good team. I forgot that they were a team though. That's I remember them separately, but I forgot they were a team. And yeah, I mean it's an all right they're all right as a team, and this is a good match. But I mean I don't know what else to say about it. Jado and Geto were there, and they had a good match with Nova and Chris Chetti.
It's nothing spectacular. It's okay, but it's after all the mayhem that's come before it, it just seems sort of like a weird breathing space, which is maybe how it was intended. It's a fun match, but there's no need to rush to the network to watch it. There's better matches involving all 4 of these guys on the network.
So we after that there's a promo from
Yeah,
Louis Dangerously and Elektra cut a promo on Danny Doring and Roadkill.
I love this promo. So Elektra, all right. So Francine was like the ultimate woman of ECW. She was like Long Island, kind of like. And I know she was from Philly, but like she had that kind of like may have worked as a stripper, sort of like tough white ethnic from Bensonhurst kind of vibe, which I loved. They tried to replicate that with Elektra. Elektra is like a genuinely frightening person.
She is like, she is like the stereotype of, like brutal stripper who will stab you with her keys from Long Island.
Yes.
Like I have no other explanation for her. She has like a thick accent.
She has a thick accent. She looks like a stripper who has been a stripper for too long. And she looks like absolutely you're out. There's no better way to put it than the way you put it. Like she's maybe the most frightening person on the card. At one point she goes, "Look, I'm a woman in her 30s." And I was like, "Yeah, you are."
So good. I I thought like that was so great because her accent, I mean, just like the way she speaks, it's just like totally Long Island, and it's so perfect. Like,
And it
I hope to God that's her real voice. She's not just doing that. But if she
yeah.
was just doing that, it's not her real voice. Like she normally talks like doesn't have the thick Long Island accent. If she doesn't, then she deserves like some kind of award because
Seriously.
so good.
And I don't know what Paul Heyman told her to do in terms of the promo, but like the purpose of a wrestling promo is you're supposed to advance the story, generate interest in the next match. And usually you do that by referring to like a storyline. Like, you turned your back on me, I thought we were friends, or whatever, or like the crowd loved you more than me, the stupid crowd. So she's like going after Roadkill in her promo, and she's saying shit that is not part of a storyline that has to be real. At one point, she says, "Roadkill, you want to rib me in the back? Tell everyone about missing flights." Like she's bringing up shit that probably Roadkill did complain about, like that she was missing airplane flights to shows.
Yeah.
But there's no content for fans. It's just like it's like watching coworkers yell at each other. It's so uncomfortable.
That's what's so good about it. It's
Yeah,
like
it's amazing.
it's like nothing else anywhere else. Because like it it feels like you have seen something you shouldn't have seen.
Yes,
Um,
that's
like,
exactly what it feels like.
and I think, like, it just feels like like a situation where you walked into the room and like you have to put your hands up and slowly back out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
It's that kind of thing where it's just like I'll leave you guys alone for right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
But
like
you don't have the option to back out, so you just have to watch it.
you walk into the break room at work to get a soda or something, and like you just see this really nasty confrontation. You just freeze and like try to become part of the wallpaper.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's like. But I guess this would be happening at a really terrible strip club in Long Island.
Yeah, like a stripper screaming at a bouncer because he was making fun of her in the dressing room. It's uncomfortable.
So yeah, man.
But it's effective. It makes you want to see the next match.
Yeah,
Uh,
it did.
Confrontation.
That's actually true.
Um, and then we get to from that promo we go to Super Crazy versus Little Guido with Big Sal E Graziano, and this reminded me that Paul Heyman really had a thing for the middle initial E.
Yes, he did.
Um, Big Sal E Graziano, by the way, is if you've never seen him, it's really worth looking him up on the network. There are fat guys in wrestling, and then there's Big Sal E Graziano.
He is a man mountain.
He is a man mountain. It's absolutely fucking insane, and how big he is. And then like he actually like takes bumps. It's crazy. But anyway, this is a really, these two guys had wrestled a million times even by this point, and I have to say these are two of my favorite wrestlers of all time, honestly.
Yeah, like, you can see that I mean, we've seen these guys wrestle a million times, but I could see them wrestle a million more times. Like, no, I don't care. So good every time. And this, we should mention at this point, this is Little Guido and Big Sal, and they're the FBI, the full-blooded Italians.
Right.
Which is like, it's not shown here because like it's just Big Sal and Little Guido, but like the full-blooded Italians had all types of people who were obviously not Italian.
Right. Yeah, like Tommy Rich and Tracy Smothers.
Tommy Rich and Tracy Smothers were not Italians. So that's basically the gimmick of FBI. It's like full of people who were not. I mean, JT Smith was in the Full-Blooded Italians, and he's a black guy.
I always loved. I mean, to me, that was the best part of the gimmick. That like super real deal Southern guys like Tommy Rich and Tracy Smothers would come out like waving the Italian flag and stuff. Like it was really, I loved, and it was kind of like part of what it was a joke on how for so long Italian wrestlers had played Native Americans. Right?
Yeah.
Like Chief Jay Strongbow was an Italian guy from Philadelphia. He was not actually a Native American. Wahoo McDaniel was, but most of those guys were not Native Americans. And so it was a really funny kind of insidery way of like poking fun at that by having all these guys who are not Italians pretend to be Italian and like not attempting to be convincing at all, like speaking in Southern accents and stuff.
Yeah, but like there's all types of people who were in the Full-Blooded Italians, and like well, Tommy Rich and Tracy Smothers are like a good example, but like Mabel was in the FBI,
right?
And
right.
like the One Man Gang.
That's right.
And like they all like not everybody like but the main people had like nicknames too that were just like goofy Italian nicknames. So like Tommy Rich was the Big
Yeah,
Don Tommy Rich, and like
that's
the
right.
main man Tracy Smothers, and
That's right.
The Italian stallion JT Smith, which was the funniest one because he was a black guy.
Yeah,
uh, um, yeah, those
but
are
Little Guido and Big Sal actually were Italian, are
yes.
Italian. So it's watching this doesn't bring home how funny the gimmick was. But Little Guido, one of the best all around wrestlers. I mean, in terms of his style, he was trained by Billy Robinson. He's a fantastic technician, sort of the Zack Sabre Jr. of his day, and he is one of the very few people in wrestling who I've never heard a negative story about. Like everyone talks about what a great guy he is. Just in the same way that everyone talks about how terrifying Meng is.
Everyone has a terrifying Meng story and a good little Guido story apparently.
Yeah, like everybody loves Little Guido. They always want to book him on shows because he's so much fun to have around. And I was listening to the AIW podcast. They love Little Guido. They're always talking about him. Like he at the after party for shows, it's common for fans to like buy wrestlers drinks. Little Guido is apparently famous for buying fans drinks. Like he's apparently the nicest guy in the world, which makes me happy. You always want to, it's always nice to know stuff like that. Um, but he's also a tremendous wrestler, and this was such a good rivalry because Super Crazy is the high flyer and Little Guido is the mat technician, and they have a great mix, and they were also both completely fucking insane at this point. Like they did shit that you should not do. Um, Super Crazy early on does this insane moonsault from the ring apron over the barricade into the
Yeah,
crowd.
that I always find that impressive when they're like jumping off the ring over the barricade into the crowd. Like that's because if you fuck that up, you're basically your back is broken.
Yes, yeah. And there's like unprotected chair shots. There's all kinds of crazy shit in this match. Like these guys, they never had a bad match. I mean, this is not like a top 10 match between the two of them. It's a really good match though.
Yeah, the thing is like these two, Super Crazy and Little Guido, and if you add in Tajiri into the three-way dance, um, it's just like it's gonna be like one of the best matches you see on the card. So if you like go back through the ECW shows and you find like any of the three-way dances between Super Crazy, Little Guido, and Tajiri, um, those are all gonna be good. Every one of those will be good.
Yeah, you're never gonna be disappointed. And it's the rare like that those guys ensured there was a good three-way dance, which is one of the hardest matches to pull off because there's in most three-way matches there's always like the spot where like one guy pretends to be knocked out or something for 10 minutes. But those guys never relied on that. Like I mean, they just the way they could integrate their matches, each all three guys into the match, it's just incredible to watch. Just put in their names in the network and treat yourself, honestly.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a three-way dance. Like any match between any combination of those three guys is going to be really good.
Yes. Um, and there's a point in this match. Speaking of Big Sal Lee Graziano, the secret weapon of ECW at this point, in my opinion, he takes a Hurricane Rana from Super Crazy, and he sells it like he bumps, and that doesn't sound like anything unless you know what Big Sally Graziano looks like. He looks like a guy who should have trouble walking,
Yeah, yeah.
and he fucking sells this Hurricane Rana like he's Bobby Heenan. It's amazing to watch, and the crowd goes nuts. um, so really good for him.
Yeah, this match, like, this match has a lot of interference from Big Sal, but basically every time Big Sal interferes, it backfires and Little Guido gets hurt. There's like almost no interference from Big Sal that doesn't end with Little Guido taking damage from it.
It's very ineffective. He was also at ECW shows. I remember one of my favorite chants of all time for Big Sal was people would chant "You fear salad" at him.
Oh yeah, that was a good chant.
Um, But yeah, this is a good match. It's definitely worth watching. And also, ECW fans loved counting to 10 in Spanish.
Oh yeah.
Um, okay, so this is good because the match ends, and I want to ask you about this. After this, we see a preview for the ECW video game Hardcore Revolution. You are a video game expert. Do you remember this game?
I
And
owned it. I had it on the Dreamcast.
was it as
It's
bad as it looked?
it was as bad as it looked. It was like a basically um Acclaim was making wrestling games at this point, and like this one is a reskin of a WCW, not a no, I think it's a WWE game that's a reskin of where it's like just basically the same game with the different wrestlers kind of pasted in. Um and it's poor, it controls poorly, and it looks bad, and it's not very fun, and that's it. That's the ECW game in a nutshell. I remember playing it a bunch though, just because I liked ECW. So I guess there's that. But
Yeah.
I remember playing it a lot, but I remember it also not being very good.
So disappointing because an ECW game should have been amazing.
They could have had Elektra come out and do promos.
That would be too terrifying. Um, all right, so that's Hardcore Revolution by Acclaim. Uh, then after that, we get Kitano Kanamura.
That's Wing Kanamura, who I
That's
mentioned
Wing
earlier,
Kanamura
also part of
from,
Team No Respect.
from FMW with a fantastic mullet of his own
Oh yeah, he's got a mullet.
against Balls Mahoney. By the way, on this on the network, I'm sure if you track this down elsewhere, you can find it with the entrances complete. But most of the entrances are clipped off on the network, so they avoid the music issue altogether. And the ones that aren't, they have like shitty like WWE in-house music dubbed over the actual theme songs.
Oh yeah, my God, it's terrible at some points.
It's yeah, I mean
We'll get to that.
we will get to that because there's one where it's unavoidably terrible.
Yes.
Um, so this does not seem like it's going to be a great match, but the good thing is it like never gets started because the Baldies, wrestlers who their gimmick was they were the gang from an 80s movie based in the 60s,
Yes. Yes.
and
Uh,
so they were like skinheads but not skinheads.
yeah. The Baldies are look like skinheads, but they're not skinheads. They're actually based on a kind of street gang in a movie about the '60s called The Wanderers,
That's right, the Wanderers.
and yeah, it's so they're not skinheads. They just look like skinheads.
They just look
Um,
like skinheads.
the yeah, I don't. It's hard to explain the Baldies, but this match, the Balls Mahoney Wing Katamura match, like it was like a 2 minute match. Like they did stuff, but like it was surprisingly good for the 2 minutes that it happened. Like Balls Mahoney did wrestling moves. Like
Right.
he did a sit out power bomb and a frog splash, and like
Well,
he also took unprotected chair shots to the head. But it wouldn't
yes.
be Balls Mahoney if he didn't do that. And he did win. Like there was a pin. He pinned Wing Katamura with a Nutcracker Suite.
It's one of the secrets of Balls Mahoney is that he actually knew how to wrestle, but most of his wrestling was the hardcore style. Most of what he did was the hardcore style because that was what got him over. But he actually was like a capable wrestler, as you can see in flashes in this match and others too. Um, but it's really short, and blink and you'll miss it. Then the Baldies come out because I guess the Baldies had some kind of dispute with uh, Balls Mahoney, maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember what the reason was why the Baldies were attacking, but they were attacking.
Like a lot of ECW booking, it didn't make a lot of sense. But they come out and they start wailing on Balls Mahoney, and then you hear the unmistakable sound of Ice Cube and Dr. Dre's Natural Born Killers, except you don't hear that. You hear generic rap number 35, which on the WWE network means New Jack is coming out.
Oh man, see the problem with the problem with this song that they're playing in the background, it sounds there's like this high pitched squealing in it that sounds like an electronic mosquito or something, and it's like constantly buzzing in your ear. So like even if the match was awesome, it's not. But even if it was, it would be so annoying because the music just plays constantly like New Jack's music, but it's New Jack's music was actually like a hit song.
Right.
Whereas this music is like, like how Snoop Dogg has like that weird kind of like high pitched squealing in some of his tracks.
Yep.
It's like you just took all that high pitched squealing and added a drum beat to it and then took out all the lyrics.
Yeah, it's really bad, and the problem is they have to play it for the whole thing because New Jack, his music, his thing. One of the things about New Jack was his music never turned off until he left.
Yeah.
So, so you hear this awful song through the duration of this. Not even the match. Like whenever New Jack is out there, you hear this song. And New Jack, not much needs to be said. He was a terrifying human being. Is a terrifying human being. He was a hardcore wrestler, and so he comes out with a lot of stuff that he's going to hit people with. One of my favorite parts is he pulls out a PlayStation to hit one of the Baldies, and Joey Styles thinks it's a laptop computer.
Yes. See, like, this is basically this New Jack's thing is basically just brings out a big garbage bin full of weapons and smashes people with them. And he's fighting DeVito and Angel, the two of the three members of the Baldies, and he just clears them out with various weapons while doing dancing stuff, whatever New Jack does.
Yeah, so there's a lot of every New Jack match has a crutch spot where he hits someone with a crutch, has a guitar spot where he hits someone with a guitar, and has a pizza cutter spot where he drags a pizza cutter across someone's forehead. This match has all of those. Crowd's going nuts. The crowd love New Jack. They brawl through the crowd. Grimes starts stacking up tables, and this is when we get to a very infamous moment in ECW, and indeed in wrestling history. He's stacking up tables. There's next to some scaffolding, conveniently located near the tables.
Yes.
And so you know what's going to happen. They're going to climb up on the scaffolding. The plan is they're going to go through, someone is going to go through that stack of, I think, 3 tables on top of each other. So they climb up the scaffolding. And as in all scaffolding matches, they very gingerly, quote unquote, fight on the scaffolding. And then they are supposed to go off the scaffolding, go through the tables. Something happens. They fall, they go wrong. The fall goes badly wrong. And it's not clear whose fault it is from watching it.
Yeah, it actually, I've heard the story of this told that apparently New Jack is like up there and they're like talking to each other, and New Jack is saying, "Yeah, we're going to go off the scaffolding," and Vic Grimes is like, "I'm not going off the scaffolding. I'm not going off the scaffolding." And New Jack is like, "Well, fuck it, we're going off the scaffolding anyway." And he pulls him off, and Vic Grimes like makes the fall perfectly, but like because New Jack basically had to like haul him off with him, he couldn't fall right. So the idea here is that like it's kind of New Jack's fault, but kind of both of their fault because like he was like saying he wasn't going to do it, but New Jack was making him do it anyway, and
It's definitely not. When you watch it, you'll see it's clearly wrong. Like New Jack hits the table's feet first and breaks his ankle, among other things. So like you can tell, like normally in a table spot you go through on your back. Neither one of them really goes through on their back. Grimes lands on top of New Jack.
yeah.
But at one point, Joey Styles says it's 40 feet in the air. It's more like 15 or 16 feet in the air, which is still high up and high enough to cause real damage. So what happens after they come down is the crowd goes nuts because the crowd thinks this is planned. Although watching it now, it's clear that was not planned. The way they fell was not planned. And then nothing happens.
Yeah, like we were here, and I because of where we were, we couldn't actually see it. I mean, we didn't run over
Right.
to see New Jack because why the fuck would you do that? But
No.
we did see him go off the scaffolding, it and he lands, and then like nothing happens, and you were just like, what the fuck happened? What is going on? I can't see anything. And then all the lights came on, and they were like, oh shit,
Yes.
something bad happened. And I mean, you don't get that from the pay per view because, like, obviously they didn't wait around. Like, but they did show them like bringing New Jack broke his neck in this, and they're just like kind of walking him out. Two dudes have him like under their under like his under each arm. They're like walking New Jack out, and they're like, New Jack's walking out. Dude had a broken neck. They probably fucked him up more by walking him out that way.
They probably did. And at one point, Cyrus says, and it sounds like not scripted, not in character. Cyrus says, "I'm getting a little worried here, Joey. You can tell something's wrong." And they, which we obviously didn't see because we were there, but like they cut back to Cyrus and Joey. You have to improvise for a while the paramedics get Grimes and New Jack out of there, and everything sort of gets set up again. But it's a genuinely, to me, to this day, this is the scariest thing I've seen in a wrestling show. And like they could have died or been paralyzed for life. It's a really weird to go back and watch it because it looked a lot worse there because it happened so quickly. Watching it on the network, you're just like, oh, that looked like a bad fall. But when you were there and saw how far up they were, and then that moment when you realize they're not getting back up, and no one and here comes some paramedics, and it's not like or not kayfabe paramedics.
Yeah, they weren't going to be shooting milk from the from the ambulance or whatever it was.
Right? Yeah. You're like, oh, and there's no way to know at the time. There's no way to know what had really happened. Like you just knew somebody was hurt. It was I don't know. I really don't want to see any more moments like that at wrestling shows.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where you're just like, that one actually warranted a "please don't die" chant.
Seriously. And honestly, like, for what?
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, like the crowd couldn't really see it, and like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
They got bigger pops with the pizza cutter spot, Just do stuff like that, which is safer. It's hilarious to say that cutting someone with a pizza cutter is safer, but it is much safer than jumping from a scaffolding 15 feet in the air. So there's as they recap Joey Styles and Cyrus, and they were very professionals. They handled it pretty well.
They had to kill a bit of time here.
Yeah, they did. So they recap what's coming up next, which is a 3-way tag team match.
Well, like it's a 3-way elimination tag team match, so like it's not like a 3-way dance where whoever pins wins. It's like you have to eliminate 2 teams to win.
And it's for the ECW Tag Team Championships.
It is indeed, and we've got 3 teams here: the Impact Players, Raven and Mike Awesome, what a weird team, and Tommy Dreamer and Masato Tanaka, who are the champions.
In the Power Slam, I'm glad I read the Power Slam book, actually, because a lot of these guys are interviewed. Raven talked about that tag team, and he said it was just a weird, Paul Heyman was mad at him because he had gone to WCW and had come back to ECW, and Heyman didn't really have anything for him to do, and so he put him in this tag team because Dreamer was his arch rival, and then he's like, well, and so I'm just going to have the 2 arch rivals against each other, Dreamer and Tanaka against Mike Awesome and Raven, but neither team, I mean, Dreamer and Tanaka could be a capable babyface team, but Raven and Mike Awesome is a weird idea.
Yeah, it's just like a weird team to have. Like Raven and Mike Awesome, really?
And it makes more sense when you read that Paul Heyman was just mad at Raven and didn't really have anything for him.
Oh wait, the champions were Raven and Mike Awesome, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Yeah, so like Raven and Mike Awesome were the tag team champions for some reason. Just bizarre.
Very bizarre. And of course the Impact Players and Dawn Marie and Jason, the random extraneous goofball. So they come out. I noticed one person in the sign holding. I have no idea what this sign was referring to at the time, but the sign said, "Hey, CBS, fuck off." So like I don't know why that person was mad at. There was no wrestling on CBS at this time, so they were just mad at CBS for some other reason. Um, but this is an okay match. I mean, three-way matches are often awkward, and especially three-way tag matches are often awkward.
Yeah, that's true. But Raven and Mike Awesome got eliminated really quickly, so it kind of
Yes, they
evened out.
did.
Um, like I guess it's actually pretty interesting booking that the champions got eliminated first and really quickly. Just like
Again, makes sense when you
Masato
makes sense
Tanaka
when
with
you
the
know
rolling
that Paul
elbow.
Heyman was mad at Raven at this point.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. But it was probably a good idea, if only because Mike Awesome was not much longer for ECW either,
That's true.
though nobody knew that.
No. Um, but this isn't bad or anything. And it's what gave the Impact players the tag titles, so that's fine. But it's I don't know. Nothing about this match really grabbed me. It was one of the things about ECW that sometimes like the booking was so up and down. It was so like bipolar. There'd be crazy stuff like the New Jack thing, which really took the air out of the crowd to some degree, and then there'd just be like some good tag team wrestling, and it was kind of hard sometimes to readjust quickly enough to be like, oh, this is a good match.
Yeah, yeah. It,
It's a fine match though. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just nothing that makes me you know sit up and
the
take
finish was
notice.
nice. The finish was nice.
The
I
finish was
mean,
nice, and the Impact
Spike
players.
pile driver with the Impact players. It's,
The Impact players are one of my favorite tag teams, and I feel like they never really got their due
that's
because
true. They were a really good tag team.
people for whatever reason have a lot of hate for Justin Credible, but he I thought he was really good, especially as an Impact player. He worked really good in a tag team with Lance Storm. Um, but anyway, that match ends. Impact players are your new ECW tag team champions. Um, and then we have the main event. This was supposed to be Sandman, but his wife was brutally assaulted by Rhino. So it's Rhino versus Super Crazy
For the TV championship.
for the television championship, which had been held for like ever by Rob Van Dam, but he got hurt. Rob Van Dam broke his leg, so there was like a tournament. Rhino is the hand-picked network champion, but before the match starts, Paul Heyman comes out. I remember this promo very well because it was, it's so weird to. It's just a very weird promo. It was really good because it's Paul Heyman, but he comes out and he cuts like a profane, expletive-laden promo on the network that is airing his wrestling show.
Oh yeah, it's great.
And he comes out and he talks about how sick he is of the network, and it's a good promo. But it's and the crowd loves it. But it's just so weird. And then when the match starts, Joey Styles is basically saying it's TNN versus ECW.
It's basically that.
And it's a good match. Super Crazy's already worked that night. He worked with Guido, and so he's tired, but they're doing pretty well until Super Crazy's arch rival, Yoshihiro Tajiri, runs in, and there's no disqualification, of course, because it's ECW, which raises all kinds of booking questions, like why didn't people just come to the ring with weapons all the time? But never mind. Tajiri spits the green mist, at Super Crazy, then kicks him in the head, enabling Rhino to wait. No, then Steve Corino and Jack Victory come in.
Yeah, the Steve Corino and Jack Victory come in, but there's been a ref bump at this point, so the ref is out.
That's right. John Finnegan is out. and it's kind of like a 3-car pileup or a 10-car pileup where there's all these different guys in the ring fighting, most of whom are on the TNN side as opposed to the ECW side. But then you start to hear that
Respect by Pantera play,
except
except
in
it's not.
the world of the WWE Network, it's not Respect by Pantera. I remember this moment. I remember being super excited that Rob Van Dam, who had legitimately had a broken leg, was coming out, and the music was, that's what signaled it, and everybody going crazy for Rob Van Dam to come out and save the day.
Yeah,
He comes,
on the network though, you don't get the idea of how crazy it is because like they had to not only dub over the music but also the crowd noise because people are singing the song.
yep,
So like it's just like generic crowd noise, generic rock music over the crowd. It happens like a bunch of times in this, but like it actually lessens the effect of Rob Van Dam coming out for this because like the crowd is actually nuts for this.
yeah. The crowd goes completely crazy, and they're all singing along to the Pantera song, which is a fun moment, even though I don't like Pantera. Um, it was
Um,
still
I, I believe you were a big fan of Pantera after you saw that the singer posing in the mirror in the bathroom at that horror event.
It's a true story. This is a true story, ladies and gentlemen. Um, yeah, but anyway, it's a great moment. He comes out. Rob Van Dam's basically in street clothes, and he's got his leg in a cast, and he's with a crutch. Um, and he comes out and he puts Rhino through a table somehow, enabling Super Crazy to get the win, become the TV champion. Then the bad guys start wailing on the good guys. The crowd is chanting for Sandman, and of course you hear that music cue that everyone knows so well, except
Enter Sandman by Metallica, except
it's not.
generic version of Enter Sandman by Metallica.
And once again, WWE has to lower the sound not just on the music but on the crowd noise because everyone is singing Enter Sandman.
Yeah, so it's basically like when they pipe in crowd noise for WWE, like they add the extra crowd noise to make it seem like there's more people. It's basically just that piped in crowd noise and generic music. It
Yeah.
doesn't. It's not actually the sound of the crowd because the crowd like is loudly singing Metallica.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer actually because that was one of the fun things about ECW, how into it the crowd got and how they would like sing along with the entrance music. Um, but that obviously can't happen because WWE doesn't want to pay for the rights to those songs, and I don't necessarily blame them. I have no idea how much those rights would cost, but it's still a little frustrating. Um, and the Sandman comes out to a huge response from the crowd. He canes a bunch of dudes, and the good guys stand tall.
Yeah, I
That's the end of the
mean,
show.
Super Crazy wins the championship. That's yeah. I mean, Super Crazy won with a moonsault. Sandman comes out and gets revenge, and that's it. Good ending. Everybody is happy.
Overall, I like the show. I remember it being. I think maybe I had conflated multiple ECW shows we saw
I
in my
definitely,
mind.
I definitely did that too because like there were some matches I was expecting that weren't on the show at all. So it
Right.
was like, oh, that must have been another time we saw ECW because did we see ECW multiple times at the O'Neill Center also?
We did. I think we saw them at least 3 times, maybe more than that, at the Neil Center.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think I was definitely remembering some of those other shows. There's one that in particular where and now I remember it was just Incredible and uh, maybe Dusty Rhodes or maybe Steve Corino. But it was really bloody, and they went through the crowd, and they were like right near us, and they got blood all over some people who were sitting behind us.
Yeah, that was either Dusty Rhodes or Steve Corino. One of those two got blood everywhere.
And I thought that was this show, but it wasn't. I guess it was another show. Um, but it was a good. I enjoyed the show. It went by pretty quickly. There were a couple things that were sort of like, not as good as I remembered. It's just like anything else. It's more fun to see it in person than to watch it on TV.
True.
or not anything else, but certainly wrestling. With the exception of WrestleMania, which has to be more fun to watch on TV than to see it in person. What a
Couldn't
nightmare!
unless you were like basically close enough to see the ring. You're basically just paying like hundreds of dollars to watch it on the Titantron.
That's true. Um, but yeah, overall this was good, and this was the last Living Dangerously pay-per-view. The next one would have been in March 2001, which of course is when they were filing for bankruptcy. When they got kicked off TNN in place of WWE, that was the end of ECW.
Yeah, that was the end of ECW, which is terrible because like they could have survived. It wasn't impossible. It was just that like they had bills that they needed money from the pay-per-view company to pay, and the pay-per-view company was just basically like, well, it seems like you're going to go bankrupt, so why should we pay you? And they didn't. That's like
Exactly.
that's actually the reason ECW went out of business. It's that the pay-per-view company owed them like millions of dollars, and like they were like, well, and ECW's like, we need this money to not go bankrupt, and they're like, well, if you're going to go bankrupt, then we'll only have to pay pennies on the dollar then, so we're not going to give you your money. And that's what happened. ECW went bankrupt, and they only had to pay pennies on the dollar.
It's a sad story. ECW is a very special promotion, a very fun company. And
So
this is a fun show. It's not the best ECW pay-per-view, by the way, but it's worth checking out.
yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be like the first thing I'd recommend for ECW pay-per-views, but it's still a good show. Yeah, I mean, no problems with this show at all. It was fun to watch. There were there any bad matches? I mean, were there any matches you would say like, Jesus, I can't believe I had to watch that?
No, I mean
No,
the Dusty
right?
Rhodes Steve Corino thing is basically kind of boring because you can't really see anything, and it's
Yeah,
just a
I mean,
brawl.
that's the worst match, but it's not like bad in any way, and like it's got so much extraneous stuff attached to it that like, it's the match part is actually like the least exciting part of it, if only because like you just seen like a near near gang rape and the brutalization of the Sandman's wife.
Yep.
Um, so anything that came after that wasn't going to be a little bit muted.
It's true. Um, so that's our ECW Living Dangerously show. We went and saw it live, and now we've reviewed it 17 years later. What do we have for our next podcast?
Oh, next one. So in this show, there were a lot of good matches and stuff that we were glad to see, and things we wanted to talk about. But then the next episode, we're going to be looking at something so horrifying that I can't imagine that there's going to be anything. I mean, in this match, we couldn't pick a match that was going to be that we would say like, I can't believe I had to watch that. In the next episode, we're going to be watching a show where we're going to be like, I can't believe I got through any of that.
We're staying in the year 2000, but we're going to the summertime now because it's summery weather now, and we're watching WCW New Blood Rising.
Oh, New Blood Rising. Okay, this is, I believe, the pay-per-view directly after the infamous Bash at the Beach 2000, where
Correct.
Hulk Hogan was fired.
His
Well, I
last
don't.
ever appearance for WCW.
Yeah, so like there was like a bunch of drama, and Vince Russo like basically made a call like, we're gonna fire Hulk Hogan or whatever, and then like Hulk Hogan sued WCW and got millions of dollars for it. But um, yeah, it's the pay-per-view directly after that, so you can imagine like this is the basically the end of WCW, and we are smack and dab in the middle of Vince Russo territory here. Um, so you can imagine it's going to be full of just awful garbage, and I can't imagine that there's going to be anything on this show that's going to be like really something I want to recommend. But, I might be surprised. I might have forgotten about something that was totally good that happened that wasn't storyline related. Maybe there was just a good match.
I think this is a good time to watch this. There's been a lot of loose talk about Vince Russo coming back to WWE. The only person actually talking about this is Vince Russo, but for some reason he's convinced people that's a possibility.
um,
It's
it's not
it's
a
not a
possibility.
possibility. It's not a possibility. And we're going to watch New Blood Rising to remind ourselves why it's not a possibility.
All right, so New Blood Rising, 2000 WCW pay-per-view. You guys, if you want to watch it before the episode comes out, you will. I
We're,
mean,
we're
that's
sorry in advance.
you're a special kind of masochist, I guess. But yeah, you can do that. So feel free. The New Blood Rising pay-per-view. It's gonna be full of Gindrax and huge erections and things like that.
There's a mud wrestling match with future George Clooney Flame Stacy Keibler.
There's a four-way tag match with three special guest referees. It's a fucking mess. Like looking at we looked over the matches for this, and I thought like there was like the opening match. I was like, well, that could be a good match, but like basically everything else is gonna be involve the Kiss Demon or some shit. I don't know. It's gonna be awful.
I'm really gonna try to um, improve my Vince Russo impression too, because this was all Vince Russo.
Listen, bro, we're gonna have everybody come out with tits, and they're gonna just mud wrestle. That's basically it. 2 hours of that.
Bro, it's gonna be amazing. The other thing about this, well, we'll talk about it. I don't want to give too much away, but I do like to give you some idea of how bad this is and how badly planned it is. This was named after a faction in WCW, the New Blood, that disbanded before the pay-per-view.
Yeah, yeah. It's very good booking.
Classic Vince Russo. So that's what we'll be watching for our next one. We took a week off because I was in Minneapolis actually watching wrestling.
Technically, I think it's been almost 3 weeks since the last
Oh,
one
wow.
because like we missed the one because we screwed up the day and I didn't watch the pay-per-view when you thought we were recording. I was actually in the middle of watching it when you called to record, so like I was halfway through, so we couldn't record. And then the next day you were busy, and then like the week after that you were in watching wrestling across the country. So
Yeah.
this is 3 weeks since the last episode.
Well, thank you for bearing with us, everyone, and we'll be back sooner next time, I promise, with some really exciting WCW action from 2000.
Yeah, wow. This I was actually looking forward to watching, but the next one, no thanks. This one's gonna be this is one I'm gonna have to watch like match by match through the week.
It's going to be great. All right. If you're interested in more wrestling content from us, closetofanxiety.tumblr.com has updates pretty much every weekday. You can find me on Twitter at TJBreen. You can find Joe on Twitter at xcornmuffinx. You can also find him on Tumblr at hakujinjo.tumblr.com. The best way to get in touch with us is to leave a comment on this here YouTube channel. You can also suggest things you would like us to watch. We're going to need a palate cleanser after New Blood Rising, so think of something good if you want to.
Yeah,
and
dig into your memory banks and pick something that you remember as being a really good pay-per-view.
Doesn't even have to be something on the network necessarily. If we can find it on YouTube, we will watch it.
Yeah, just think of something that is not going to be involve the New Blood or something horrible that I'm going to want
Vince Russo.
to stab my eyes out after watching.
Yeah.
So try and think of a good pay-per-view for us to watch, so we don't have to watch something even worse than New Blood Rising. Um,
All right. Right.
because otherwise, if there's no suggestions, we're going to end up watching XPW, and that could actually be worse.
Sooner or later, we're gonna have to confront XPW. I checked YouTube; their whole pay-per-view is available.
Oh, Jesus.
Sooner or later, we're gonna have to watch it. But help us postpone that horrible reckoning and suggest a better show for us to watch.
Yeah,
Oh,
because next time we're it's going to be all Judy Bagwell on a pole matches.
that's what's on New Blood. Oh, it's so good. The famous Judy Bagwell in a pole match is a part of New Blood Rising, folks. You are going to love this, and by love I mean hate.
Oh, Jesus. Oh my God. What? We should have just watched Bash at the Beach.
All right,
Uh,
everyone. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
See you guys next time.